Right, so we're at the third installment of the Sketchup snippets about the dimension tool, and now we've got a slightly different case where we previously only had rectangles and sort of straight lines, all at right angles to each other. We've now got a slightly different design. So here we've got a rounded circle and a rounded end. So of course you're going to need to have a slightly different kind of dimension on here. So we can put in a lot of the existing dimensions. For example, like this one, which is the overall size in that direction from the reference point. But when we come to this putting in the overall size in this direction, we have a bit of a problem because in SketchUp and actually in many softwares, it's actually quite difficult to measure to the most extreme point of a circle end. So what you need to do is you need to actually dimension to the center of this component, or the center of the hole, and then put on the radius of the outside of this. So let's first take the dimension tool and measure from that point there. And what we need to do now is going to zoom in a little bit, and you can actually find, if you touch the edge of the circle, you can find, it'll show you where the center of that circle is. And if you move in a little bit, it'll lock on and it will actually tell you that it's at the center, as it's doing now. Okay, so once you've done that, click and then drag out, and you can see now that the dimension from that reference point to the center of the circle is 700. So now the accurate way of me dimensioning the remaining distance from the center of the circle to the end is by putting in the radius of this curved corner, or this curved end here. Now, if you've got a component, as I have here, it's a weird quirk of SketchUp, and I don't really know why it is, but for some reason, and this is important to know because if you don't know it, it's going to make your life difficult. For some reason in SketchUp, you have to double click and go into the edit mode if you've got a component in order to put on a radius onto a part. So take my dimension tool, and if I touch on a curved surface like this one and click, it'll actually automatically sense that it's a radius, and you can see then it's giving a dimension R150, and that's the radius, in other words the distance from the center to the outside of this semicircle. I can also, while I'm out about it, I can dimension the radius of this circle, and you can see it's currently giving me the diameter of the circle, which is fine as well. If you want them both to be radius, it's perfectly okay. What you're going to need to do then is you're going to need to take your select tool, and with your control button on a Mac, and you can just click the right button of your mouse, just hold it down, and then this little contextual menu will pop up, and if you choose type, you can choose between radius and diameter. So I'm going to choose radius, and you can see now my radius is 90. I usually keep that as diameter because the nice thing about the diameter dimension is it actually goes through the center. You can actually see where the center is, and you can see that it lines up. If I just click away, it lines up exactly with the end of that dimension. Now, anybody looking at this drawing now is going to know that the distance from here to here is 700, and then the distance from this center to the edge is going to be 150, because every part along this semicircle here is going to be 150 away from the center. So 700 plus 150 from there to there will make 850. That's all you need to do. Now, in theory, you've got every dimension on this that you need, except for one, and that is this one up here, which is 400. So the only thing that remains now for me to put on to here is the thickness, and I've just got to remind myself what that thickness is, and you can use the tape measure tool for that, and it's 18. So I'm going to just get my text tool, type thickness 18 millimeters, and now I have all the information I need, because this distance here can be calculated by minusing, if that's a radius of 150, then the total distance from here to here is going to be 300, which means that this will be 400. Now you can add that as a dimension if you want. It's not necessarily true. Not necessarily true that you need it, because anybody reading this drawing will be able to work out what that dimension is, and it saves you from having any unnecessary errors if you only dimension something once. All right, that's it for this part of the dimension tool. Tune in for the next one.